Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. That was timed to perfection. Hello, I made it at 7 o'clock, and you would not believe the last hour I've just. Well, you would believe actually, it's not that exciting, but I've just been trying to multitask on numerous levels, work, wash up, cook dinner, to get to here so that I can tell you what I'm having for dinner, but also I can talk about this marathon special. So what I've decided to do over the coming weeks is deal with the different distances and the different challenges that lie therein. And we're going to start with marathon. We'll do one about 5K, 10K, half marathon, ultra marathon, triathlon, Ironman, half Ironman, loads of different stuff. But we're going to start with the marathon because it's my favorite distance, that's for sure. And I think that there's a lot of questions out there and a lot of things that I can answer and help you if you are thinking, maybe not this year, maybe not even next year, maybe you're a brand new runner, but at some point, I think that you will probably think in your head, maybe I should do a marathon. And that's good. Believe me, that's good. Let's see who's in. Danny, hi. Hello. Karma Yogi, hello. Buno Man, love it. Chris, Winona, how is everybody? Yeah, let's hope a marathon happens soon. That's the big thing. So, oh, and while you're watching, by the way, I think it was 5 weeks ago we celebrated the 7,000 subscriber video, and I am currently, let me just check. And I always say this, I don't even know why I'm talking about this because I genuinely don't put much stock in it. But it's nice to celebrate landmarks. And I'm 12 away from 8,000 subscribers. So that's pretty cool. That just means I've got more eyeballs that I can hopefully help and feet, not just I don't just want to help eyeballs. I want to help the whole body get through races. So let's talk. Oh, let's have a look. I always just about to start a sentence, and then I don't want to ignore the people that are saying hello. So I'm going to flip between the two, and let's see who's about. Sean's in, Eric's in. How you doing? Iraq, runner's knee. Okay, I'll get onto that. Rob's in. Steve and Kurtival. Is it Kurtival? How do you pronounce that? Oh man, why has everyone got such hard to pronounce names tonight? Well, okay, Dashagadelic 123 is not particularly difficult to pronounce, but it is an interesting name, no doubt. Good. I'm glad that you hope to build to this, and I'm glad that you're here because I can help you. Brendan, how are we doing? And Shikar, namaste. Namaste, love namaste. Now, marathon. Let me give you my one biggest bit of advice that I could give anybody that is training for or thinking about a marathon, and I genuinely believe this. This is my number one, the kind of piece of advice when it comes to marathon running. And that is this. If you want to run a marathon, your biggest challenge is not the marathon, it's getting to the day uninjured and ready to go. Because you would not believe the amount of people who overtrain, who get injured, who worry that they've not put enough miles in before the marathon and blow out before they get to the marathon. I've done 4 marathons, so I'm not saying that I'm by any means a huge marathon expert, but I've run 4 marathons. In fact, I've run an ultra marathon, trail marathon, the London Marathon and Seville Marathon. So I've had a nice mixture, and I've been fit, what I would call fit, for 50% of those marathons. 2 of the 4 I've been in good nick when I've got to it, and 2 of the 4 I have not. And funnily enough, actually, the 2 that I've not, I did a 2:55 and a 3:06. So go figure. But your biggest challenge is getting yourself there. You do not believe it. You genuinely don't have to train as much as you think you do. And I really, really believe that, because I think that there is a case to be said for being smart with your training, and there is a case to be said for your body just being the most incredible machine. I would say the majority of the people even watching this right now, you could go out and run a marathon tomorrow. Now, it'd hurt like hell. It would not be pleasant, but your body would allow you to do it near enough. And take that on board. All a marathon is, a race marathon, is actually being in better shape to do it, but actually most of us could knock it out tomorrow. And if you're going, well, hang on, I'm a new runner, honestly, if someone put a gun to your head, right, and I don't want to do that, but imagine someone put a gun to your head and said, go and run your marathon now, I bet you'd find a way. Take that in a second. Oh, just fell off my chair. So that's what I believe, is that we are all capable, more capable than we believe, and we actually overtrain in anxiety getting to a marathon. So there's my number one point. And we're going to touch on a few things today: nutrition, hydration, the training that you do, the race itself, what it feels like, mentality, how you approach the race and how you approach training, and clothing and gear. And I will also answer any marathon related questions that people have. Let's have a look at some of the questions. Fear is the path to the dark side. That's correct. Hello. Rob, pacing a marathon, how much slower should you start than goal pace for a 3:30 marathon? I'll talk about pacing. So let me write that down. I'm going to write it all down. So pacing. Very good question. I don't know if you've seen my London Marathon video, but I had a right touch on the day. My pacing was, I would argue that my pacing is up there with Eliud Kipchoge. Nowhere near as fast, but it was up there in terms of consistency. Go watch the video if you're interested. We'll touch on that later. Manchester, Karmiogi was training from Manchester and has reduced volume to keep the training at maintain. Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to be at peak. Absolutely not. Your body can't really take it for that long. Hi, Gary. You all good? Eric, sleeping schedule is really messed up. How should you get back to your normal sleep? Oh, good shout. Sleep is mega important in training. So important. If doctors should prescribe sleep as a way to get over a lot of illnesses and ailments we have. That's a theory I have. Sean, magnesium citrate at night reduces cortisol. Great for the heart and helps sleep. Good tip. Like, people are giving tips to each other in the chat. That's what this is all about, right? Not just me. Other people are knowledgeable enough. And this is a community. This is not me going, Sean, pipe down, mate. I want people to get in there and help each other out. That's what it's all about, right? No egos here. That's good. Lolo, cross-training with cycling and working on building your base. Is it better to train in zone 2 power, even if that is heart rate zone 3? Heart rate. Heart rate. Heart rate. I'll get into that a bit more. Any tips for getting into London? I'd love to do London. Okay, hang on. London tips. Well, it's not a good, you're not going to enjoy the tip that I give you, but it is the best way. Lou, how are you doing? And Phil, you ran 30K this week. Do you need to go longer before the full 42K? Okay. Distance in training. I'm going to call that. Man, there's some good questions already. I'm loving this. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to answer some questions now, and I'm going to come back to the chat in a minute, because lots of people are asking lots of questions, which is brilliant. But if I don't start talking now, I will never start talking on the actual subject. I'll just be reading people's questions out. So let's talk about, first of all, nutrition and hydration. It's not a difficult topic to touch on. Really, the main thing here with training and racing is, don't try a strategy in the race that you haven't tried in training. So everything that you do in training should be built around what you're going to experience on race day. I really believe preparation is key. So if you are planning on, for example, taking a gel every half an hour in the race, then you need to do that consistently in training, especially on your long runs. You're not going to have to buy a lot of gels, I'm afraid, but that's the way it is. Don't do it on the day, because otherwise you're going to get I see a lot of people that get a bit of a distressed stomach suddenly taking on gels when the gut's not trained at doing it. Same with drinking. I tend to only drink water and get my energy from gels, rather than doubling up and drinking like energy drink and gels. My stomach cannot take that. But the gut is a very trainable thing. So if you do want to do those two things and it has worked for you in training, then that's what you do. But we'll always come back to, has that worked for you in training? Do not try anything new on race day, even if you feel like you really need that extra boost and I'm going to have a Lucozade while I'm running around, and I don't usually do that in training. Resist. Yeah, that's where all the gastric intestinal kind of distresses come from, is your body not knowing what's going on and taking on new kind of fluids or gels. I tend to nutritionally take a gel every half an hour in a marathon, and I drink water at every aid station, but I make sure that I am fully hydrated before the race by drinking an electrolyte drink, not a Lucozade, but an electrolytes, kind of rehydration drink. Let's have a look at some more questions, just so I've got them in. Winona ran 2 half marathons yesterday with 12. Winona, you're mad. Winona ran 2 half marathons yesterday with 12 hours off in between. How much of an indication do you reckon that might be for marathon ability? A pretty strong indicator, I would say. I mean, you can't account for the adrenaline and the excitement of the day, which often, really gives you a boost and is actually a pain reliever a lot of the time, I find. It's just that excitement. But that, that's a pretty good indicator if you can run 2 half marathons in a day with a big break in between. Brendan, I'm going to come to yours as well. I noticed you asked me that in the week about your training hitting a wall, and we'll talk about that. So let's have a look. Oh, Mandy's getting stitches. Okay, stitch. Oh, I'm going to write stitch. All right. Training and distance. Let's try and cover some other questions that we've asked here. In terms of the distance that I would suggest that you run before you do your first marathon. I think you don't really need to run. Some people feel like they do, and that's fine, but you don't really need to run over 34 kilometers, I would say. What's that in miles? That's around just over 20 to 21 miles of the 26.2, or 34 kilometers of the 42. Your body can do the rest on the day. You might be surprised to know that some of the top ultra runners in the world, the ones that do like the spine race and things like that are over 12, 24, whatever hours, they really only do marathon volume training. They do a lot of it, but they don't go above. So distance is the thing that eventually, when you get tired, your technique breaks down, and that's where the injuries occur, when your body is too tired to hold your proper form. So I would say 34 kilometers is absolutely ample for a marathon, and your body can do the rest on the day. You don't really need to worry about pace while you're training, especially if it's your first marathon. Really don't worry. Just try and enjoy the experience. That's what I would say. Don't put any pressure on yourself about this pace or that pace, because you really never know what it's going to feel like until you're in there in battle. So just think about it like that. Try and enjoy the process. Run regularly. I run 3 times a week while I'm training for a marathon. And honestly, I don't need to do any more than that. And I've not had bad marathon times, although the experience is what I'm there for. The times have come through, and I've really probably trained half of what some other people are doing. So I'm always interested about the payoff, or the balance between quality and quantity and volume, and what your bodies can take. And like I said earlier, your body's capable of a lot more than you probably think it is. Let's have a look. Sorry, there's lots of, the reason I keep pausing is I've got a list down here of things I want to talk about, but I don't want to ignore the people asking the questions as well. So I'm trying to do, but I'm not very good at multitasking. Danny, not really a question, but you've been math training and you recommend it to anyone trying to build up their mileage and aerobic base whilst also staying injury free. Yeah, interesting, good. Math is maximal aerobic fitness training. So if you want to look into that, then go check it out. Steve, Manchester Marathon is October. They've announced today that they will have an answer by mid-July if it's going ahead. Should you start training now or wait? You've struggled mentally since it was cancelled. Now, like I've said before, actually, I mean, I'm training for the London Marathon, Steve, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen. So I would say start training towards it if it fits in with your training plan. Have a look at, work it back. I have a maintenance training plan that you've probably seen on the channel. And then I've also got a marathon training plan, blah, blah, blah. Fit it all together and see where you would need to start for the Manchester Marathon if it was on. That would be my advice. You like to run early morning. So Kurt, how do you pronounce your name? Can you do it phonetically for me? Is it Kirtival? You like to run early morning only, and you also need 7 hours sleep. So go to bed at midnight and wake up at 5, do your run, and remaining 2 hours. Don't interrupt your sleep. Here's my advice for you. Read a book called Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker, and it will probably scare you into sleeping, if I'm honest. He says you need a minimum of 7 hours sleep potential, he calls it. So he doesn't necessarily call it sleep, but you need to be in bed for 7 hours minimum. 8 hours is the gold standard. Anything less, and your mental state and your health does deteriorate, and that is a fact. So you need to look at that, and if you can, try and implement that, even just staying in bed, because like I say, it's sleep potential. Karma Yogi, math is, math training as well. Okay, good. So we've got a couple of people math training, and your PB is dropped by 3 minutes, even though you're running at a very, very low intensity. So that's interesting, isn't it? And that's what I always preach, is you probably need to run slower than you think you do. Is there a training app you suggest for starting training? In what way? What do you mean training app? To record your runs, or to literally give you a plan? Can you just clear that up in the comments there for me? No, don't be sorry. People are coming in saying, sorry, I'm late. You don't have to be sorry. I'm just glad anyone's here. I could be talking to myself. I'm trying to talk all things marathon, but it's been really good kind of interaction today as well. So I'm trying to take care of the two things here. Okay, let's have a look. The book is called Why We Sleep, and it's by Matthew Walker. That's the book that you're looking for. Now, I've put mentality towards a race. I think one of the biggest things that you need is to approach a marathon is your mental armory, and that is the video I'm making this week is about ego being your enemy. Would you believe I've just read a book by Ryan Holiday called Ego is the Enemy, and it is fascinating what the ego does to us all, and certainly in our training. Now, my ego has got me into these troubles. And I'll go into more detail on the video on Sunday. But my ego has made me run at least a whole season too fast. My first season, it's made me push through injury when I know I'm injured. It's made me run races too hard. It's made me train on recovery weeks or not take rest days. It's done all of that, my ego. And if you want to get to the start line of a marathon, then you need to A, try and keep your ego in check, which is hard, and B, learn from other people's mistakes. Because a really lovely quote I really liked in this book, Ego is the Enemy, was by Bismarck, and it was, any fool can learn from experience. The trick is to learn from other people's experiences. So take my advice. Learn from other people. I'm always learning from other people who have done other things. In fact, I was talking to my friend John, who you've probably seen on some of the vlogs earlier, back in the year. He's the ultra runner, and I was saying I'm really keen to do a 100-miler, and he was like, mate, I've not done a 100-miler yet. They are absolutely disgusting and brutal, and you need 3 years of at least, a lot of running. And I was kind of, from experience, I'm taking his advice and I'm retracting my statement straight away, because I can't actually cover the distances he's suggesting that I need to cover in order to run a 100-miler. He said you need to be at about 100K a week. My body won't let me do that. Not yet anyway. So mentality is really important, and the ego is super important to kind of keep suppressed when you're marathon training, because it will try to get you to push harder than you should. It will try and get you to run more days than you should, and maybe skip a recovery day, or get an extra run in there. Just let's skip a recovery day, and I think we'll still be all right. It's a really difficult one, but if you want to get to the start line, you have to be humble as, I won't swear, but you have to be humble as with yourself. Okay. Now, any more questions on here? To guide or prompt as you are running, like when to run and when to stop. An app that prompts you when you're running and when to stop. Well, Garmin does do that. You can program Garmin. You can pretty much create your own programs with a Garmin watch. But I think you need the watch, and you can kind of say run for 30 and it'll beep, and then it'll make you walk for 30. So Garmin, I know, do that. And I'm sure most smartwatches do that. So you might have to invest in a smartwatch, but they will do that. Neil, reading Why We Sleep Now. Yeah, it's a fascinating book, and it has really made me go hard on the 8 hours sleep a night, although I was always very good at that. I've always prioritized my sleep. So, but I know a lot of people that don't. Okay, What else? Pacing in a race. Let's talk about that, because we've talked about nutrition and hydration in the race. We've talked about using it in training. We've talked about how to train smartly to get there, and what kind of volumes you should be doing, and what the main distance is. And we've talked about the mentality. Let's talk about the pacing in the race. And I think that's really, really important. And I will give you, I'm sure she won't mind me using her as an example, but I will give you Mary as an example. If you watch her Seville Marathon video, if you are interested in how she did in the Seville Marathon, she was aiming for a 3:30 marathon. Absolutely more than capable of a 3:30 marathon, by the way. No doubt in my mind. But as with all of us, on a lovely day, when you've been putting the work in and you've got yourself to the start line and you're excited, things go wrong. So I would say Mary, our aim for Mary was for her to run 5-minute kilometers throughout the race, solid. Just focus on that. And if you look at her statistics, her first half of a marathon, she's running kind of 4:50s, 4:45s, 4:50s, and they weren't pushing her because she can run at 4:15s. But she wasn't adhering to the golden rule, which is to put the ego aside and know that you're in it for the long term with a marathon, because she'd never known what it felt like at the end of a marathon. So she's running the first half marathon going, this is comfortable. Like you can actually watch the deterioration throughout the video. It's very funny. It's cute, but it's funny to watch. And I would always say, have a game plan on marathon day. Have a pace that you know that you will be comfortable running. Like, base yourself, like pick a time that you want to run if you're time oriented. If not, if you just want to finish, that's even better. Then you just run comfortable and don't worry about the watch, nothing. Take the day in. That's, if it's your first ever marathon, that should be the advice. Enjoy it, take the day in, almost cover your watch up. But if you have a time in mind, and there's no problems with that, there's no faults in that, but if you have a time in mind for running a marathon, then you need to religiously stick to the pace that you've decided would get you to that time. Don't think, or certainly in the first half of the race, don't think, oh, actually, I feel better than that, I can run faster than that, because it will bite you in the arse later on in the race. Now, there's nothing to say that with the 10 kilometers to go, you're like, actually, I'm pretty certain I could push it now, because the chances are you've been in and around the wall by then, if you're going to hit the wall. And usually the wall comes from getting your nutrition and hydration strategy wrong more than it is not having done the distance before. So I would say be conservative and be sensible and be structured with your pacing as you get to up to 30 kilometers, maybe 34. If I've got something in the tank and I think I know I've got it in the tank, usually 7 or 8 kilometers to go, I will increase my pace. But I won't do before then, because I am by nature, I'm a reasonably cautious runner, and that might be a fault. You know, I think actually probably that is a negative of mine more than it is a positive, because I think I'm capable of faster than 2:55. But I ran very well within myself on marathon day because I'd been coming off the back of an injury. But if you look at my pacing, moving on from Mary's, because unfortunately Mary blew apart and ended up running 6-minute kilometers in the Seville Marathon because she'd gone a little bit too hard regularly at the start. And that's a big learning curve for her, and she's learned that, and that's good, right? Because it helps put her ego in check. Mine, I ran conservatively. I was aiming to run between 4:10 and 4:15 per kilometer, and I think it averaged at 4:11 in the end. But my 5-kilometer splits were within 1 second for the entire marathon. And I was very proud of that. And I'm not saying I'm better or I'm amazing, but I was just super proud that I was able to put my ego in a box and stick to a plan. Executing a plan on race day is quite magical, actually. There's something very special about even that. So make sure you execute a plan. Now, someone asked, I can't remember who it was, but someone asked about getting into London. So let's talk about that. There is no easy way. Okay, well, there is an easy way, but you have to be a bit lucky as well. Oh, it's not easy. That's absolute crap. I don't know why I'm saying easy. Right, there are 3 main ways. The charity entry. You find a charity, you raise money for them, and you get in that way. That's what I did. That was what I did my first year. I had to raise £2,500, and it is pressure, and you do feel it, but it is a way into the marathon. Your second option is to get in through the ballot. And of course, getting in through the ballot is notoriously difficult. In fact, I've never achieved it. Your third option is check out what you would have to run to get a good for age or championship spot. And that, of course, doesn't apply to everybody. And I don't mean it to sound conceited or arrogant. It's really not what I'm saying. But if you are a runner and you have run decent half marathons, fast half marathons, or fast marathons, you might want to look at that way of entering in. Because I currently have a good for age spot for October, because I had to run sub 3 hours to qualify for the year after. And my hope is that I qualify year after year for as long as I can with good for age. But I don't know what's going to happen with next year. If October's cancelled, am I chucked out of the marathon and everyone has to reapply for April, or do we all just get rolled over? Nobody really knows at the moment. But they're your three options. Not the easiest, but they're your main three options for London. And I would say the easiest is the charity route. You can raise £2,500 for 1 year. I've never asked for charity money before, and so I managed to cajole it out of people. And you do feel a bit of guilt, but at the end of the day, you're raising money for charity, and that's the main thing. Let's have a look. Talking about hitting the wall and Stitch. So Brendan, let's talk about you hitting a plateau in your training actually first. I wonder if it could be that you are overtraining and fatigued. And can you just answer me in the comments? Are you respecting rest days and rest weeks? Are you having recovery weeks, and are you having rest days in your weeks where you're training? That's a really important thing for me, because that's actually where all the benefits come, is when you rest, is when your body builds up stronger. The training is actually breaking your muscles down. The resting is actually building you back up. So you could be fatiguing yourself by overtraining there. Let's look at some questions. Eric, have a nice day, people. It's 2:22 a.m. and now I need to, yes, you do need to sleep, Eric. 2:22 a.m. I didn't even know there was a 2 in the morning. Fearless to the path to the dark side. Not a marathon, but planning to do a homemade duathlon. Any training tips? And what is an average time to complete it in? That very much depends on your distance that you're doing, of course. So when you say duathlon, what are the distances you're looking at there? But my main advice would be, don't even worry about the time. I'm going to do an Ironman in August, and I am not bothered about the time at all. I know what time I want to do it in a race, but this one in August, I'm just going to do the distance. I do not care. I'm going to vlog it. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to have a laugh. So, if you're doing a homemade one, don't worry about time. Enjoy. Travis, how are you doing? So your pace is slowing. You're getting winded and tired halfway through. What should be easy 6 to 8K? And now I'm experiencing low back pain on runs. Am I losing fitness, burning out? Oh, Travis, did you email me? That was your email. I've got you emailed me earlier today, and okay. I will email you in detail later, but I suspect, Travis, it's that you've gone from 5K to 10K to half marathon without taking a really proper rest and letting your body catch up, because there's a lag. When you do my 5 and 10K plans, that is for beginners. And because it's very low intensity, I don't factor in training blocks and periodize it so that there is recovery weeks. So you've essentially gone 5K plan, no recovery week, proper recovery week, 10K plan, no proper recovery week, into half marathon, where I think there are recovery weeks factored in. But Travis, I think you're fatigued, mate. I think you need to stop, and I think you need to go back down a few kilometers, get to some lower distances. First of all, prioritize, give yourself a week off. Just do a couple of short runs, because you said to me in your email you're feeling really, really fatigued, like you're running in cement shoes. That's your classic overtraining, fatigued feel. So give yourself a week off, rest and recover, do a couple of shorter runs, then maybe do the 10K plan again. Don't try and rush through all the way to half marathon. Maybe stick around a time, because your training goes like that, but your body needs a bit more time to catch up. So it goes bang. And if you hold there, you allow the body to catch up. But if you're keeping going up and up and up, your body's always just playing catch up, and you're either overtraining or getting fatigued or getting injured. So you have to kind of stop at points to let your body catch up before you go again, body catch up. I hope that makes sense. I will reply to your email as well, but I just wanted to get that in there. Barry, is there not something about for every 10 seconds you run under your target pace per mile, it costs you a minute in the second half of a marathon? I don't know, but it makes perfect sense when you consider what Mary went through. So yes, you're probably absolutely right. It is about just sticking to a plan. Chris, you prefer the charity route as it's highly unlikely you wouldn't get good for age time, but also applying to charities and being accepted by them is the issue. There are tons out there. You will always, I actually got lucky. It depends on the timing you do it, Chris, because if you do it before you find out if you're in the ballot or not, you're going to get, there are loads of charities. What people tend to do is once they find out they're not in the ballot, then they go to the charities, and by then they're all full up. And that's what I did. And I was very, very lucky that a very good friend of mine, her dad was a very big part of Lord's Taverners. So he got me the charity place. Otherwise, I wouldn't have run it either. So get ahead of the game rather than wait to find out if you're in the ballot. That's the best advice I can give on that there. So Brendan, yeah, you have rest days every second day, but no rest weeks. Okay. Rest, right. Brendan, check out my video on the channel about periodizing your training. So what you want to do really is 3 weeks of training and then 1 week of recovery where you reduce the volume down to at most 50%, if not less. Like I explained a minute ago, your body needs the time. You've got to let it catch up. If you don't have recovery weeks, rest days aren't going to do the job. You have to have a full actual week where you reduce the volume. And that is called periodizing your training. And that is when you start to really structure your training and feel like, you know, you have a proper mission. And it's all learnable and it's all teachable. So that's kind of what I see myself here for, is to help people become their own coaches as well. So Travis, oh, no problem at all. That's all good. And no worries, Chris. So what else should I talk about in the marathon? Stitch. People talk about stitch, and there is no easy answer to this one because people still don't know what causes stitch. Scientists can't find out definitively what causes stitch, the same way they can't definitively prove what causes cramp, because people often think it is a lack of salt, but there's no proof that that's the case. It might be a reduction in electrolyte balance. There's no hard proof. No one definitely knows what causes cramp. Can I tell you something very weird? I'm going to touch wood now. I have never had cramp in my life. Never. I don't know why, but I've never had it, never experienced it. People call me a freak. I don't know, but I've never had it. Okay, let's have a look. Hey, Jake, how you doing? And how do you pronounce that? Ated? Am I pronouncing your name right? I hate it when I think I get names wrong, but let me know. You're just creeping up on your long runs at the weekend, hit your first half marathon last weekend, getting a bit of pain in your left hip and joint towards the end. Is it normal, or do I need to look deeper? It's not normal. Pain is not normal. So you need to be very mindful of that. If on your that's a good, let's talk about that for a second, actually, because that is a very good one, is pain in general with training, and especially on your long runs. Pain is never normal. And it is your body telling you something is off. And what people tend to recommend is if your pain is 1, 2, or 3 out of 10, that is acceptable, in that is more likely to be aches and pains. It's more likely to be your body feeling the effects of running long. If it gets to above 4 or 4 or above, you need to stop, because that's your body telling you something's about to go wrong, or is gone wrong, or is going wrong. I have had different varying pains. I had, as you know, at the start of the year, Achilles pain. I've had calf pain while I'm training. And I now know I just bin a run. If I get pain, I bin a run. I'm not having it. And it takes a lot of ego work. And that doesn't happen all the time, by the way, because I did run through awful pain in Australia only earlier this year. I ran through just the worst pain, thinking it was the aches and pains of training, but it was way worse than that. It was Achilles tendonitis, and I spanned myself for months. So, as we touched on earlier, again, don't just learn from your own experiences, learn from other people's experiences. That's the key here. So pain is not normal. And as I always say, running analysis. If you're getting consistent pain in a consistent area, get a running analysis. And very much like if you go, oh, well, I've had a run analysis a few years ago, very much like this analogy I always like. It's very much like sweeping the floor. The floor is then clean, like a run analysis. Your running is then sorted, but the floor doesn't stay clean. You have to constantly sweep it if you want to keep it clean over the long term. And it's the same with your running. It's the same with your ego. All of these things need work. So if you've had a run analysis in the past, but then you've had an injury, I recommend getting another one. It's exactly what I'm about to do, because watch Ben Park's vlog. Watch Ben Park's latest vlog. I watched it today. His running actions since he broke his ankle has changed. And if he had not had that picked up in his run analysis, he would have consistently run like that and eventually change his running gait to something less efficient than it was before he got injured. But he's picked it up and he's working to change it. Now, that's fascinating to me. Your body is amazing at compensating for an injury or previous injury and tries to work around it and will change the way you run in order to do that. So if you're getting pain, it's your body's way of telling you something's not right. Please help me out. And a run analysis will be one of the best ways to do that. Lots of stretching, strength and conditioning. Okay, we're coming towards the end because I've cooked chicken jambalaya tonight. That's what our dinner is. But I will just check the last couple of questions. So Jake did your first half marathon last weekend and ran a 1:32. Brilliant. Great time, Jake. Well done. That's a solid time for a half marathon. Cramp is awful. Yes, Sean, I wouldn't know. Oh, is that me being arrogant? That means I'm going to get it now, doesn't it? Damn it. Barry, yeah, I am lucky. I've never had cramp. That is, I do consider it like I've watched friends get cramp and it is disgusting to look at. So it's aphid. Okay. All right, cool. But don't worry. I do worry. I like to pronounce things the right way. So I'm going to go now because we're up at 37 minutes. It's too long. I've just talked rubbish, but I hope that this has been helpful if you're thinking about running a marathon. Next week, we'll focus on a different distance, maybe half marathon, and the different approaches you need for that race and the different nutritional needs and the different pacing needs. And also, if you want any other things talked about as a topic for a week, then I am open to ideas. I'm only focusing on the distances because that's an easy one to do and talk about and break down. But anything, let me know. Okay. Mr. Caffeine is saying hello and goodbye then. Yes, you are. Sorry, but thanks for stopping by. And I wonder who is going to be the 8,000th subscriber. I might write it down when they are and shout them out next week. So if you haven't subscribed and you're watching this, it might be you. Who knows if you subscribe. If not, then, don't worry about it. Right. Chicken jambalaya time. Everyone have a fantastic week. I'll see you Sunday for the weekly vlog. And let's hope for better weather because it looks like it's going to turn cold. Right. Chicken jambalaya. See you later.